Hello everyone. This is Cathy Lagapa from BSHM 2A, and for today's video, I will be reporting Chapter 9, which is Organization of Personnel. The most complicated problem of business is people. Technical processes may be mastered, requirements of materials may be correctly figured. Plants and offices may be built according to required specification. An intricate machine may be devised to perform with the accuracy. But if the human elements in business are disregarded, trouble is ahead. Human beings essentially differ from each other. They cannot be standardized like inanimate things. They are dynamic, not static, and most certain thing about people is their uncertainty. Human beings are also to a certain extent selfish both by nature and by environment. A person who is an altruist is one who has regard for and is devoted to the interest to others than himself alone. The basic personal problem about personal is that the employer has work to be done. The employee wants to receive for his work enough money to live according to the standard of living and establish of himself. When the employer has to pay too much to get work done, the increased cost will be reflected is the higher price of finished products of the point for diminishing orders from customers, increasing the efficiency of the workers. The desire of the employer to bring down his cost of production and desire the employee to have adequate returns of his efforts are two economic objectives acting opposite each other and which must have to be reconciled. In success, personal organization and administration, there are six main factors involved. Namely, first is analysis of the job. Second is selection and testing of applicants. Third is induction and training. Fourth is supervision and personal action in the work process. Fifth is providing an incentive together the wage administration. And lastly is cooperation between the labor and management. Analysis of the job. The term job analysis has long had two recognized meanings with corresponding objective. The first is that analysis of the job applies as the more or less superficial study of each job or work satisfactorily. The resulting information is summarized in a job specification, which is used in selecting applicants for employment. The objective is to make it possible for the interviewer to match more intelligently the applicant's qualification with the requirements of the job. In this kind of analysis, the first step is to determine whether the work is really necessary. If the work can be eliminated, therefore, no more time is needed to spend on it. Elimination of unnecessary work is considered the first technical step in any improvement program. If the work is found to be necessary, the next step is to examine everything connected with the job, starting with the purpose of the work, the materials and equipment used, the condition under which the work is done after using motion analysis as a background. As a result of the above described detailed survey, several facts may be revealed. First is the light may be inadequate or may come from the wrong direction. Second is the machine may be in poor condition or may be obsolete. Third is the materials may not come in proper shape to work on. Fourth is the tools may be dull, not appropriate, or even lacking. Fifth is the worker may make many unnecessary motion which not only spend time unprofitably but likewise tire him quickly. And lastly is the work may not be arranged to best advantage. So let's proceed to the time study. So the purpose of time study, as distinguished from motion analysis, is to determine the time required to perform each element in the operation, each operation in the job, and in the job itself. There are two reasons for time study. So first is selection and testing of applicant. So the selection of the person best fitted to the work involves finding the sources of desirable applicants, followed by interviewing, testing, and choosing from those available the ones who most nearly have the required qualification. Second is sources of application. So the science and art of employment and recruiting is not highly developed in the Philippines as in industrialized countries. So, in the fact that almost 10% of the labor force is unemployed or seriously unemployed result in abundance or oversupply of labor scarce as certain types of personnel like lawyers. Sources of labor supply are apt to be fluid and variable. The following may, however, be mentioned. First, in the event of new opening promotion or the other vacancy. Second is former employees with satisfactory records are valuable sources, occasionally. Third is friends or relatives of present employees are good sources. And fourth is newspaper advertisement. Advertisements are always effective sources in the Philippines. Fifth is schools, colleges, and training agencies are sources for specific types of help. Six is the Department of Labor as an office of manpower services which acts as the state of employees agency in the Philippines. Seven is many skilled workers and supervisors send letters of application on their own bulletin to business firms. And lastly is in companies with labor onion files may present another sources. So the selection procedure. So this involves a sequence of functions adapted in a given case for the purpose of ascertaining whether or not candidates process or the qualification called by the specific job. So first is requirements of the job to be filled have been specified. Second is qualification workers must processes have been specified. Third is candidates for screening have been recruited. So selection of pharmacy candidates from a group of applicants is not easy. Certain facts of features such as sex, age, schooling, and previous employment are readily ascertained and checked. Let's proceed to the testing ability of aptitude. In addition to the factors considered in judging the applicants, it is desirable in the find two another other things. So first is whether the applicant has any disease or tendency to disease which might be spread among other employees or which may interfere with his own work sooner or later. This is done through the medical examination. So second is the applicant present level of knowledge, ability, and intelligence with respect to the work contemplated. This is done through the test. So personal administration has come up with a test which look into the second requirement. These tests are intelligence test, aptitude test, vocational test, interest, proficiency test, and lastly is personality test. So intelligence tests are useful but have a tendency to be overrated. So inexperienced beginners must be tested for aptitude so that their training may be directed to the lines of their work, which is to show the applicants have aptitude. So in other words, aptitude tests indicate training ability to a certain of work in which its training is more likely to succeed. So in a nutshell, therefore, the process employing personnel may be summarized in a step process as follows. First, filling up the application forms or contacting of sources of applicants. Second is giving of tests. Third is interview of the selected applicants. Fourth is medical or physical examination. Fifth is investigation as to background interview of the references and the like if necessary, if necessary. And six is induction of the employee. So the stage of the induction should take into account the two major. First is the employee, acquainting the employee. Second is indoctrinating him in the philosophy. So different types in training. First is be sure that the new employee understand what you have in mind. Second is show him carefully what you want to be done using patient going to deals and explaining the importance of each step. Third is have him watch someone perform to the work and let him ask questions. Fourth is to review the instruction. And fifth is then him practice the work under direct supervision slowly at him first. This is time to correct false moves with patient explanation. Let him continue to practice until he has mastered the correct method. Six is review the instruction. Seven is let him get more practice, gaining proficiency constantly until his output approaches and standard of work set for the work. So training is not limited to the new employee. Old employees have to be retained or prepared for a promotion. So let's see no nga na mga the seed for training may arise because of first is normal growth for or expansion. Second is low labor turnover cans by transfers, resignation, retirement, marriages, and deaths. Third is new processes or technologies. Fourth is its usefulness as a tool of control. And lastly is its advantages in giving information, improving morale, and developing skills. So training may be by apprenticeship, formal and established apprenticeship, reduce would include occasional lectures and classroom training. So, internship training, this refers to the joint program of training in which schools and businesses cooperate. Selected students carry on in a regular school studies for periods ranging from 3 to 9 months and then work in some factory or office for a designated period of time, alternating in this fashion until the course is completed and the student is ready to accept permanent employment. So, masabtan na jud kaayo ang internship training. So, let's proceed to the learning training. During periods of heavy demand for and short supplies or semi-skilled labor industry is faced with the task of training. Green hands or learners. The learners usually receive a program of education and training. So this is necessary because the learners come into industry without the rudiments of industrial knowledge. So fourth is supervision. Supervision is the object of the assistance to the worker so that they can make most of his time and effort. So the following are the function of supervision or responsibility of a supervisor. So first is the supervisor gives help and encouragement to any worker who may need it. Second is he teaches the worker the correct way to the work and patiently watches him until he has mastered it. So third is the supervisor sees that the work is supplied to the worker when as it is needed. So fourth is he sees that the work is turned out according to the schedule. So fifth is to settle differences as they arise and thus order with the unit in addition to cooperative responsibilities. So these are the functional of supervision or responsibility for a supervisor. So to discharge this responsibility properly, the supervisor must be understand what is required of his group, such as first is he must know how to get work done and when it is being done correctly. Second is he must now know how to give orders and instructions so that they will be understood followed. So third is the supervisor himself must be carefully and thoroughly trained for his job. The supervisor's job is to see it that the work is done. He is closer to the performance of the actual work. And providing all an incentive. So an incentive is stimulus of action. It is affords a strong encouragement of an objective. So let's proceed to satisfactory wage to conform the certain characteristic. So it should be such as to maintain a standard of living which is the employee is accustomed or it should be same. Second, it should be within the capacity of the company to pay. Third is it must be comparable to prevailing wage rates in the community. Fourth is wages should be related output. Then fifth is wage plans should be readily understood by employees and if there is an incentive plan. Six is the wage system should be facilitated in collection of post data. After determining the regular wage rate, the determination of incentive rates as follows. So, the result of motion analysis and time study may establish a fair days of works of an employee as follows. So, makita nato ang mga unit per hour, units per day of 8 hours, units per week of 40 hours, wage per week, cost or rate per piece. So now, suppose that worker X turned out of the 75 units and out of 3,000 units of a week. So the incentive labor management cooperation activities are extra payments of time work. Second is payments for the not to work. Third is payment for employees security. Fourth is non-production awards and bonuses. So fourth is non-production awards and bonuses. Then fifth is employee services. Discover a wild field include the supervision by the employer for the employees of a criteria by beauty parlor athletic team. So labor management cooperation comes into full form play in the process of collective bargaining and union activity. So the Industrial Peace Act Republic Act 875, otherwise called Organization of Personnel, employment of the subordinates. The ideas of the subordinates are then implemented and used as part of the supervision. So, the Magna Carta of Labor outlines are the areas labor management relation, the former acting through the unions and the later through its management representative. So this law giving gives working men and the right to organize themselves into unions, in the right to bargain collectively and the right to engage in concerted activities. So other personal action may take the form of the promotion, transfers, disciplinary action, and separation, scope of the transfers and promotion. So disciplinary action is the term refers that the pace of management work which has to do when the employee is or alleged to be as full. So although it is not always possible or practical to follow a set routine in taking disciplinary action, nevertheless there are certain steps or stages to which attention must be directed at one time or another. These steps include the following. First, accurate statement of the disciplinary problem. Second is collection of full information on the third is selection of the tentative penalties to be applied. Fourth is cookie among the alternative penalties. And fifth is application of the penalty. Sixth is follow-up of the case. So disciplinary action are generally proceed by corrective action. In all cases, primary responsibility rests with the line supervisor, but the personnel department or staff helps formulate company policies in the matters of discipline and renders formulate sa staff's assistance of the operating department. So there's various modes includes first so separations may be voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary of separation or resignation should be proceed according to established personal procedures. Voluntarily separation may be for one economic reason. Second is disciplinary reason. Third is incompetence or retirement. So retirement is voluntary in the sense that even if an in can still work or wants to work, policy declares that he should leave the personal department or staff should help the retired attend to his financial preparation, such as retirement, pay, social security, benefits, and the like. Medical examination and physiological preparation may also be given by the company. So, thank you for listening my report and God bless everyone. This is Cathy May Pasos Lagapa from BSHM 2A.